Hi, Mommy Brainers. It's Sierra. And I'm sorry I've been slacking on videos. I'm super busy. I have a trip coming up with Brooke, and I am freaking out about it. This will be the first time she's on a plane since she was 6 weeks old. So I have like lists upon like books of stuff that I've been doing to figure out how I can make this hour and 50-minute flight the good flight so she's not traumatized by it and I'm not traumatized by it. But today, I'm actually not following up with Bree's video yet because I was so inspired by friends recently. I've had like 3 or 4 friends pop out babies, and I'm so happy. And my uterus is kind of like Sierra babies. Ugh. But um, I wanted to do some things that I remember what it was like after you have your baby, when you're in your postpartum period in the hospital, like what to expect. Guys, I have to say, check this out. Look at my hair. So long, been growing it out for 5 years now. Check it out. Oh, okay. So, I have my handy dandy list here. I had to go through and do all my memories. So, here's my handy dandy list. So, I'm doing this based off of how I experienced it in my hospital. In my hospital, you stayed in the room that you gave birth in for 2 hours because they love the golden hours. So you can establish breastfeeding, and you can get that skin to skin kangaroo time, and you just have some quiet time after you have the baby. Well, with me, obviously everybody knows that that wasn't the case, but by the time I was moving, I got to have her back. So the first thing they do is, even if you had an epidural, if you didn't have an epidural, they make you get up and they make you use the restroom for the first time after delivering. And that can either be extremely traumatic, or that can be a non-traumatic thing. And I want everybody to not think of it as a traumatic thing, because you're just urinating. Um, and I had tons of stitches. I had an episiotomy, and I had stitches up in my urethra as well, because I had a catheter due to my epidural, and that caused some tearing. So I had several sets of stitches. And my nurse was super sweet. They help you walk to the restroom, and they actually stand there. And by this point, you really don't care, because I mean, you just pushed out a baby. So they give you this little bottle, and I actually think I have one around here. Hold on one second. Lovely view of my house, huh? I don't have it around here, but it looks like, hold on, I'll find it and I'll be back. Okay, I found it. This is what they give you in the hospital. It's your peri bottle, and it has like a little star. I don't know if you can see it, but like a little star tip. And they fill it up with warm water for you, and they tell you to squirt as you urinate. Now, they don't really tell you much else. They say it helps, and the best way I can think of it is, so like, you squirt at a downward angle, and it is the best thing in the whole entire world that you will ever use. I remember thinking it was the best thing ever. They also give you like, they have like numbing cream. They give you like at the hospital. Mine was a little container like this big, and you just do little pumps. They give you these really weird granny mesh panties, and they give you these huge like diaper like pads. And so they get you all prepped, and they give you this like spray that numbs everything, and they say, okay, we're gonna go to your room. Well, when I went to my room is when they play the, the baby music that you hear in the hospitals, and you're like, oh, they just had a baby. Well, that's what they did when I was moved to my postpartum room. So I'm in the room, and she is like rolled next to me. And they get me into the room, and they ask if they can give her her first bath. Well, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And so they do it while you're in the room. I had personally requested that everything be done in front of me. That's something you can put on your list. of like your birth plan. And my husband came back from being with my daughter as well, and he was in the room with me. He was tired. So while they got me adjusted in my bed, he was like shining his hand to protect the light from her, and I took some of the cutest pictures ever. I'll try to post them like next. Check it out. And I got adjusted, and they put like a chuck under you, and they have this in my hospital. They have this beautiful wall that listed like who my nurse was. They had welcome baby Brooke, all this sweet stuff. And then a nurse came in and she said, I'm gonna give her bath. And so they did it right in front of me, and by this time I was extremely sore, and so I watched, and it was so sweet. They keep them very comforted. Brooke really didn't cry. They did her hair first, and so they washed her hair and they kept her swaddled, and then they unswaddled her and wiped her down a little bit at a time. So that's the first part. In the second, and then in the second part, is when I finally got adjusted, I noticed everything hurt and everything was sore, and that's when they came in and they gave me my first round of several of stool softeners and pain medication. They give you pain medication that is safe to take if you breastfeed, and they give you stool softeners like like crazy because it helps with your first bowel movement. Let me just say, my first bowel movement was not bad at all. I heard so many horror stories, and I ended up being like, oh, that was easy. So there's that. There's something to look forward to. So let's see. Oh, yes. When you get to your room and everything, your height comes down and you are kind of adjusting, you realize that you have this floppy belly. I remember poking mine, and I remember being like, what the hell is this? And I didn't realize, I thought like you were going to go from round pregnant to flat. And it doesn't work like that. I'm sorry, I still don't have a flat belly, and I'm over 13 months postpartum. Unless you're like really lucky, supermodel, lucky body type kind of thing, it's very rare that you will instantly go to a flat belly. So there's that. Be prepared for a floppy, squishy pillow belly and embrace it. Love it. That just baked a baby. So let's see. Next thing is you will do a series of newborn checks. Your nurses do two major ones each time they remove your newborn from the room, and in my hospital they lasted an hour long each. They do testing and blood draws and temperature, glucose, bilirubin, everything that you should be looking for with a newborn. And they put, it's called, medically it is called paper tape. It has no resemblance to paper. It is actually extremely sticky. So when they come back, their little heel has a prick on it because that's the best way to accumulate blood for the newborn screening. And in my hospital, they put a little blue 4x4 square or white, and they put paper tape. Well, their skin, newborn skin, is so sensitive. They it hurts to take off the paper tape. And I swear, next time the next baby, I will request that they do not use paper tape. Um, I mean, I don't know if I would even let them put band-aids on at that point. I would just ask for to keep applied pressure, or put a sock over it. I'd rather ruin a sock because every time I took the tape off of Brooke's little foot, she cried because it hurt. Um, as well as the blood draws, they come back with little band-aids or the 4x4s on some of their hands, their feet. Brooke was different because she was new, early, but I'm sure 90% of the babies get. I know all of the babies get newborn screenings because you have to do one a week later as well, where they poke the heel and they squeeze and they collect blood to test all their levels. So there's that. Be prepared for that. Um, be prepared to be exhausted because you just went through this huge thing, and now you are so worried about like letting that child out of your sight that you don't sleep. I remember they took Brooke for one of her newborn checkups at like 2 a.m. And I said, I'm just gonna sit here, I'm gonna watch my movie, I'm gonna relax, and I'm gonna wait for her to get back. And I fell asleep. And then I woke up and I didn't know how long it'd been because I didn't want her gone from me for longer than an hour. And I didn't know how long it'd been, and they were bringing her back, and so I felt extremely guilty. So sleep while you can. I know it's going to be crazy because you're establishing feedings and you're establishing everything like that, and you feel the need to be everything so perfect. But don't put so much pressure on yourself where you feel the need to be perfect. In the hospital, they make you keep this paper where you write down everything. Every time they eat, every time they poop, every time they pee. I can see pooping and peeing and eating while you're in the hospital, but I remember being so frustrated because they wanted me to wake her up every 2 to 3 hours to eat. And I completely, this is my opinion, completely disagree with it. If you have a sleeping baby, let a sleeping baby lie. I know what the term is, let a sleeping dog lie, but I feel more that a sleeping baby should be left alone and they will eat when they are ready. After I left the hospital, I never wrote anything down. I never did any sort of tracking. I let her sleep. And I believe, honestly, again, my opinion, I believe that is why Brooke slept through the night, or majority through the night, 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. or 3 a.m. when she was brand new and since. So there's that. Be prepared to write everything down. And I know some parents continue to write things down, and that's just their preference. It wasn't my preference. I won't do it with the next baby either. The hospital can get mad at me. Let's see. Oh, when you are postpartum, you bleed like crazy. And I don't know, I'm sure it's been mentioned a bajillion times, but you bleed like crazy. And all I wanted to do was take a shower. And luckily, my hospital had really nice showers. They provided hand soap, they provided, hair wash. They provided a whole bunch of things for you, and I finally got the courage the second day, midday, to take a shower. I was afraid to get out of bed. I was afraid to walk around. I was really just afraid because I had never had stitches before, and let alone down there. And so had went to the restroom. If I needed help, they would help me to the restroom. If I needed help in the shower, they helped me in the shower. My husband kept an eye on Brooke while I showered, and I remember how good a shower felt. And I remember how rejuvenated I felt after a shower. It was amazing. So definitely take a shower. It'll make you feel so much better, and it'll help with the bleeding as well. You just don't feel so icky after that. Let's see. Oh, feeding and pumping. The hospital will provide you, upon request, mine did, a hospital grade pump. Usually the brand is, I totally just forgot the brand. Medela. There you go. And so that's the brand, and I mean, they give you all new materials they throw away when you're done, and they tell you to pump as often as you can, and they bring in lactation consultants, and the lactation consultants can be paged if you need them, whenever you need them. Occasionally they suggest you supplement. Some moms do not choose to go with that. Again, personal preference. I had to end up supplementing because Brooke was not able to breastfeed, even with a nipple shield. So there's that. Uh, so they do pediatric check-ins. The two big ones are the hour-long ones, and then they do them twice a day. Usually it's in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, and in the evening. Usually it's around shift change because all the nurses come in, get accommodated, and then an on-call pediatric doctor or your pediatric doctor of preference will come in and check on the baby and make sure everything is going okay. I hated mine. She was very brutal with Brooke. I feel like she was just extremely rough, and in the end I asked her to not come back if she was going to be extremely rough, and I wondered if she was going to be that way with her child because she was probably about 7 months pregnant when she was taking care of mine. So they come in, they do temperature checks, they tell you that for the first 6 months, the best way to check the temperature is rectally, and that's how they do it in the hospital. And Brooke never seemed to mind. She still to this day doesn't seem to mind. She doesn't care. Granted, I don't take her temperature rectally anymore, but when I have had to take her to the hospital, that's how they do it because they get an accurate reading. So there's that. And then there's this thing called a meconium puke, and when we went back to get Brooke, our nurse was going over everything that because we were going home, and they said there's this thing called a meconium puke. Sometimes they get that crap like the meconium or the vernix, things in their lungs, and they're still trying to get all that crap out of their lungs, and they don't understand coughing yet. So what they do is they start gagging, like literally they look like they're choking, and they throw up. And I remember when we were getting Brooke, Eric was feeding her and he was burping her, and she started doing that, and I freaked out and he freaked out, and the nurse kind of just giggled and suctioned it out of her and said, "This is exactly what I was talking about. Do not be afraid if this happens at home. All you have to do is," I'll grab her bunny for this. So if you're burping, all you have to do, I just grabbed her under her arms like so, and I would flip her over and I would just pat her on her back, and it would fine, nothing else, because it happened a couple times at home as well. And they go over everything before you leave. I remember asking, "What temperature should my house be at?" And they said, "If you're comfortable, the baby's comfortable. If you're warm, baby's gonna be warm. If you're cold, baby's gonna be cold. So you can just keep your house at normal temperature for you." And then umbilical cord, they told me to just leave it be. The umbilical cord does not need to be wiped off with Vaseline or water or anything when you change the diaper. For some reason, if some poop gets in the umbilical cord area, you wipe it off with a wipe, but otherwise I was told to leave it alone and it'll be just fine, and that's what it did. It fell off like a week later. They also told me personally, I don't know, and I delivered vaginally, I was not allowed to drive for a week, which I never understood or knew, but they said no driving for a week, and I think it was just because of everything, and being on painkillers, you're not allowed to drive anyways. So there's that. And I remember the big thing in the hospital as well was you get checked daily as well. They make sure all the placenta is out. They make sure your uterus is collapsing well. They poke and prod your belly, which for me was tender. And they just make sure everything is great. And I loved the attention that they held to detail with everything. I left in feeling like I was in full control, and I left feeling I was in full control of my child, even though when I got home I freaked out. So there's that. What to expect after your delivery in the hospital. I hope that helps new mommies to be, and future mommies of remembering if they've had not had a child in a while. But there's that, and I also want to say congratulations to all the mommies that have recently had babies. It's a great time of year to have babies, I guess. And I will see everybody next week, hopefully with a new camera and on the plane. So bye!